Part 4. This is an important segment for Ukraine.
So if we start in the northern part of the battlefield, the active battlefield area, that's the place where Ukraine last summer pushed an advance into Russia in an area called Kursk. And they took a large part of Kursk. This is where the Russians introduced North Korean troops to help push the Ukrainians back out. They set an original goal of the end of September to have the Ukrainians out of Kursk. The Ukrainians today are still in Kursk. There is a sizable force holding a sizable, diminished, but sizable chunk of ground inside Russia in Kursk Oblast right now, and they're holding on very good defensive terrain. South of there in Belgorod, the Ukrainians a couple of weeks ago pushed a smaller counteroffensive back into Russia. So we still have a back and forth going up in that area. If we come down inside of Ukraine to some of the big battlefields up in Luhansk, and first of all, there's the city just west of the old Bakhmut called Chasiv Yar. The Ukrainians and the Russians have been fighting over this city and the city to the south of it, Toretsk, for about 8 months now. In recent weeks, the Russian offensives have sort of petered out. They had been decreasing in scale, moving from company size to platoon size, now basically small groups of infantrymen trying to rush forward under artillery fire, and they have failed to gain ground in the last couple of weeks. In fact, the Ukrainians have taken a little bit of ground back from them. If we come farther south from that, we get to Pokrovsk in Donetsk province, where the Russians continue to try to take Pokrovsk. They are stalled out on their axes trying to encircle it. They got pretty close, but the Ukrainians have held the Russians back. That's on the ground. The Russians seem to be suffering from a paucity of armored vehicles and a lack of manpower. The Ukrainians on their side have assumed very strong defensive positions, well dug in, and appear to have solved some of their manpower problems that were so acute last autumn. They've increased the pool of people available for mobilization. They've increased the pool of people available for voluntary recruitment, and they've done a good job squeezing people out of headquarters to the front. If we look in other domains, both sides are relying on long-range attack. The Russians largely with cruise missiles and glide bombs, and the Ukrainians are relying mainly on one-way attack drones, as well as some indigenously produced cruise missile systems, one in particular that I've got in mind that we could talk about in closed session, sir. Ukrainians depend on us principally, uniquely, I should say, for their high-end anti-aircraft systems. So the things that shoot down the ballistic missiles and the long-range attack missiles that the Russians throw at them almost daily, that is mainly supplied by the United States. That would have an obvious effect. If the Ukrainians were not able to receive intelligence from us, they would struggle to target, especially in depth, operational level targets such as command post, logistics areas, and things like that, which require a specific you've got to have very good intelligence to do that, and they would struggle to do that. I do have to note that the Ukrainians have developed alternative sources. Many of our allies have stepped up their ability to produce things for the Ukrainians. Czechia this month is delivering more than 70,000 rounds of 155. So there are some real advances. There's some diversification of their supply sources, but undoubtedly the Ukrainians are very dependent on our assistance.